or hurt him, he never gets offended, he never gets mad, he never gets like that, right? So because he was ruling, he was governing the five senses, he was governing the flesh, right? He has that authority on the flesh and in the mind. Basically, the mind of Christ, it was there, right there. So what could happen if we don't understand who we are, and if we don't realize that now we're in a different position? Now the mind, that is a tool to help us walk in this reality, it can go against us. Now the mind is against you. A lot of times the mind goes against us, right?
Yeah.
Why? Bringing depression, bringing all those suicide thoughts, bringing all those negative thoughts, right? It's against me. Now a tool that we're supposed to use to walk this natural realm, and to use the spirit through that mind, and to use that authority and everything, the wisdom of Christ now is against me. And that is when we have to realize who is who, right? And quiet, silence that voice, the natural, and use the new man, use the voice of Christ, use the voice of the spirit, use the wisdom of God through the mind, right? That tool is there because for a reason, right? Mira, let's read 2 Corinthians 10:5.
Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians what?
2 Corinthians 10, chapter 10, and
Verse
verse
5.
5.
All right.
Let's read it from 4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Uh-huh.
All right. It says, "For the weapons of our warfare for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God, for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ."
See, so the battle is not against flesh and blood, right? But it's the strongholds, right? It's strongholds. The strongholds are in the mind, right? It's thoughts that goes against God's knowledge, right? And in the original one, it says casting down imaginations, and the original is casting down imagination. So you start using your imagination, and that imagination can be used against us or for us, right? Because you can start imagining bad things, and once those imagination it gets trapped on that, it's a cycle, right? Thinking, imagine the wrong stuff. It's gonna manifest. Everything starts with a thought, right?
But thoughts that are against the knowledge of God.
Correct. And if it's against the knowledge of God, it's against you.
And it brings you into that obedience to abide by whatever it wants.
It brings you into a fake reality.
And that's powerful because it's so hard to get out of something like that. It's so hard.
Right. If you don't know who you are, it's harder. Right?
Yeah.
And then that's why it says now you have to take captive every thought. Right. It's never talking about demons or evil spirits or something like that. Right. It's strongholds, high places, imaginations, thoughts. You have to take captive every thought against God, wisdom, or knowledge. See. So how do you take captive every thought? How do you, if you don't renew your mind, you're gonna think, oh, this thought is normal, is something normal. But now if you have a point of reference that is the knowledge of God, now you're going to compare that thought against versus God's thoughts. That's when you start using the mind of Christ, right? Okay, this thought is bothering me. Now let's bring it into the obedience of Christ's thoughts or God's thoughts, right? And if it is not for God or for you, you just take it captive and cast it down.
And it's so awesome that we have that authority.
Yes, we have that authority.
And I mean, it's like when you think of a king, you would never see a king. I mean, not a good king, anyways. Not in my mind. You would never see royalty letting even like anybody famous right now. You go and try to talk to somebody famous. They're not really going to pay any attention to really much. They're in their own world. And you know, when you're talking about a king or when you're talking about royalty, you know that we have to have that same mindset. We have to walk around like we're not going to let the paparazzi get to us. We're not going to let the snake scare us. Yes. We're royalty. They're so confident that they're gonna live forever. Yeah. You know, like they're so happy and confident in their moment. You know, and that's how we need to be as sons of God, and we need to be confident that there's just nothing that can hurt us.
But you have to understand. You have to believe that in order for you to manifest it, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that understanding, if you don't have that knowledge, how are you going to resolve that problem, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's very important to renew your mind. Renew your mind. What is the purpose for us to renew your mind? To get into that transformation. If there is no renewal of mind, there is no transformation. You're going to keep.
Well, you know, going back to what you said, Jerry, you brought it up to what was it, Romans? It says
8.
that 8. What is it? I'm trying to
Romans
find it. 8:9. It says, now if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he is not his. You know, and it's amazing because we're here talking, but if you don't have the Spirit of Christ in you in control, I mean, it says that you're not his.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, you talk about fearing God. I don't fear God, but I fear not being his.
Right. But like I said, the purpose of this is for you to understand that you're his. You belong to him because the Spirit is within you, because you recognize Jesus' sacrifice, and now you're renewing your mind, and now the light of Christ is shining within you, in your mind, right? Now the mind of Christ is taking position on that tool, right, that he gives us, the mind, right? Now I bet you sometimes going through the day, you automatically you compare some thoughts against God's thoughts, right? You bring those things together, right? Why? Because now you're getting understanding and knowledge, and that's how it is. But a lot of people, the majority of the people, they just go there and sit down there on those buildings. They just read the scripture, and that's it, right? They never have that passion or that love or that, how can I say, that desire to search who they are and what happened and what's the truth. What's the truth on all these godly or Christ thing, right?